Hey everybody, this is Michael from Champion Puppy Training System. I wanted you to act now and sign up for June's new owner puppy boot camp. May filled up quickly and we're now taking reservations for June. So act quick before it fills up. We'll show you your puppy is a champion. Now enjoy the podcast.
What is up, champion puppy owners? Do you want a streamlined ownership experience? Do you want a socialized dog with manners, responsiveness, and general life skills? Great, you're in the right place. This podcast is for the accountable puppy owner who wants to better know and grow their dog. Welcome to or welcome back. So what we're talking about on this week's theme is toys. So two main kinds of toys, food puzzles and tug toys. And for me, it's easier just to have less toys and really only have your puppy feel like it owns a few things. And at very specific times, does your dog get access to those things? Food puzzles aren't allowed down all the time. They're allowed down after you do a little bit of food-based training. And then from there, you offer your dog its food out of a food puzzle. Or tug toys. They're not allowed down until it's go time, where it's time for you to engage with your dog during that sprint, that period of activity, where initially you're just tugging with your puppy, developing drive, and then eventually you're starting to add rules to the game of tug and retrieval. So with that said, what we're going to concentrate on today is going to be the rollout, the introduction of food puzzles in your dog's daily regimen. So we're going to backtrack a little bit and first talk about getting your dog's food drive higher. So this is what I have my clients do if their puppy isn't already a chow hound, one that when you put the dry kibble down, your dog is just demolishing it like it's its first and last meal and it's just really going to town on it. So if that doesn't sound like your dog, then listen up. What we're going to first do is cut out wet food. So no wet food. For a lot of you, you're not giving your puppy wet food. For some people, they just do. There's no rhyme or reason. Maybe the breeder did, or they just feel that as part of their ownership model, they're going to give their dog wet food because dry food is just bland or for whatever reason. They give their dogs wet food. That's you. Just cut wet food out for now. You can add it back in a couple months. Then from there, I also want you to cut out treats. What? Cut out treats? Yes, cut out treats. It's okay because food is going to be the new treats. And whenever you might be giving your dog a treat for now, like let's say when it goes to the bathroom, which we really don't do in our approach, we are proactive in getting a dog to have to go right on time every time you bring your dog out. So it's really inherent reward when your dog goes to the bathroom. It gets to feel that relief, and it's more habit-based than it is reward-based. And so if that's not you though, and you're currently feel like you need to give your dog a treat after it goes to the bathroom, but just make food the new treat, okay? And we're gonna do that as we go over getting your dog's food motivation higher here in a sec. And lastly, no human food. So no wet food, no treats, and no human food. So what does that leave based upon like deductive reasoning, based upon discipline through subtraction? That leaves your dog's dry kibble only. And what we're going to do is keep your dog on a nice bland diet for the next month and a half. And then at the end of your training time with us, we're then going to have you introduce treats where your dog is otherwise failing, where you feel like you've plateaued, like you've taken it as far as you can. You're maxing out body mechanics, you're maxing out chewing outside, you're maxing out playing outside. You really feel like you're giving it your all and it's just not working anymore. Then you can go and add treats in because then at that point, you've taken things as far as you can. And think about it. If we give treats in the kitchen for that first rep, what are we going to use 20 steps from now when the distraction level is that much higher, when we have plateaued? So I want to be able to give you a tool, again, 20 steps from now, a couple weeks, a month and a half from now, that when you feel like you've maxed out, we have something else we can introduce to stimulate a higher level of responsiveness past that higher level distraction, okay? So now that you understand why you're giving your dog just food only instead of treats, wet food, and human food, we're going to put the food down. And if your dog doesn't eat it immediately when offered, like within 5 seconds, it goes up until next meal. And I recommend feeding 3 times a day for real small little like teacup breeds, little toy breeds. You might want to do 4 times a day, but for the majority of you owners, 98, 99% of you owners out there, 3 times a day is perfectly fine. If your schedule doesn't allow a lunch meal, not the end of the world, but ideally we want to feed 3 times a day up until age 6 months. Sometimes I even do past 6 months, just because it gives me more touch points with a dog. It gives me something of activity that I can do with a dog to really break up that midday time in between your dog's periods of confinement and rest. So you're going to put that food bowl down. If your puppy doesn't eat right away, you just pick the food up and you don't offer it again until next meal. So you're going to offer your dog the food in this manner, and once it eats 2 meals in a row, like you put it down and it scarfs the food down, then from there you're going to graduate to this next step. Okay, so for now we have a dog who's only eating dry food and it's eating the food as soon as you put it down. If it's eating and it wants more food, by all means you can give it more food, as long as you're not concerned about having your puppy be overweight. And typically puppies will eat to the point where they're satisfied, as long as they're on a quality kibble. Sometimes owners get very overwhelmed by what the back of the bag says for the food manufacturer, by what their breeder told them, by what their vet says. Typically, if you let your dog's belly and waistline kind of just tell you really how much your dog should be eating, it will eat the correct amount more often than not, and you're just going to go based upon your dog's in between its hips and its ribs. As long as there's like an indentation there, some dogs are going to run a little more leaner. Some dogs are going to run a little porkier, right? Certain breeds like labs, you kind of want to have them go into adulthood a little bit on the tight side, because once some of these breeds like labs and pugs, and there's a bunch of others out there, put on weight, it's very, very hard to get the weight off. It can seem like you're starving them and they're still putting on weight. And so certain breeds, and talk to your vet about this, probably makes a little bit more sense to really be on top of what their physique is looking like. Anyway, at this point, we have your dog consuming its food as soon as you put it down. Once it eats 2 meals in a row, whether that's lunch, dinner, breakfast, doesn't matter, but you put that food down, your puppy eats it right away for 2 meals in a row, you're now going to graduate your puppy to eating 5 pieces of kibble for 5 reps. So what I mean by that is you put 5 pieces of kibble in the food bowl, and then from there your dog demolishes it. You lift the food bowl up, you put 5 more pieces of kibble in there, and then you offer it to your dog again. You do that 5 times. So that's going to be about 25 pieces of kibble, give or take. And you're going to take the rest of your dog's food and bring it out on the front porch with your puppy attached to its leash. So for most of you, I would hope that if you were listening to my material before you brought your puppy home, that you had the leash attached to the harness. If not, it's okay if you have it attached to the collar, is what it is at this point. But go back and listen to some prior podcasts, and I explained to you why that is. And so at this point, we have your dog eating dry kibble only. It ate 2 meals in a row. We've then graduated your puppy to eating 5 pieces of kibble out of its food bowl for 5 reps in quick succession. And then on the 6th rep, we're feeding on the front porch. And the reason why we do this is we want to create some barriers. We want your dog to get used to eating in little increments and hanging out with you. We want your puppy to choose its food outside over engaging with stimuli. And it's just a filtering system. It's a vetting process to make sure that your puppy wants it bad enough. Sometimes I give the analogy to my clients of when somebody says, "Hey, can I get a job at your company?" I say, "Sure, give me a resume." And they maybe don't have one, so they have to put one together, which creates a barrier. And then from there, they send me over the resume. I said, "Great, got the resume. Send me over a cover letter." And so that's basically what we're doing is we're just creating some barriers, some obstacles to make sure that your puppy wants it bad enough. Something else you can do if you've already been working sit stays with your dog, or sits, or again, the combination sit and stay, is when you feed your dog that 5 pieces of kibble, start to move back after you lift off that food bowl. As you're filling that food bowl with more food for the next rep, have your dog come to you and sit and do a stay and wait to be released to get that food. And by moving back, and this is an important thing to do when you're doing your hands-on training sessions, when you're past this preliminary obedience prep kind of stuff, you always want to be moving back so your dog gets used to coming to you, where you're kind of ditching your dog and your dog keeps coming to you and sitting. So I do this for my clients. Literally first rep, I have them doing this because literally right out of the gate, I want your dog to constantly want to come to you and sit, come to you and sit, come to you and sit. So why not do that when we're doing food motivation and obedience prep, right? Once your dog eats the 5 pieces of kibble for 5 reps, 6th rep on the front porch, 2 times in a row, now you're ready to advance again. Okay, I'm going to start all over from the beginning. Your dog's eating dry kibble only. It ate 2 meals in a row. You advance to 5 pieces of kibble for 5 reps, 6th rep on the front porch. Your dog did that to completion 2 times in a row. What if your dog doesn't do it to completion? No worries. We just take the food up and we try again next meal. Your dog will eat. And then from there, now we're going to advance your dog to using a food tumbler. Now, I have 2 food puzzles. One I refer to as the food tumbler. We have that at championdogproducts.com. It's in the show notes. And the reason why I start my clients on this particular food puzzle is because it's adjustable. We can make it where the food dispenses extremely easily. And that way we create not too high of a barrier. Remember how I was just saying, I want to create barriers for dogs so that way we know that they want it bad enough. Well, we don't want that barrier to be too high. We want to put the appropriate amount of weight on the bar, so to speak. And so what you can do is make this setting extremely easy for the food to come out of by adjusting these little plastic pieces. And then from there, once your dog gets the hang of it, you can make it a little bit more difficult, until, depending on the size of your dog, you might graduate to an actual Kong wobbler. So we're going to start on the food tumbler, especially if you have a dog who has a lower food drive or is a little bit not confident. If your dog has high food drive and is like a bull in the china shop, skip the food tumbler, save the $10 and just graduate right to the Kong wobbler. And it just might require a little bit more time and patience for your dog to figure it out. So the Kong wobbler is what your dog is going to be getting the second half of its meals for a prolonged period of time, basically until you're out of the woods in your ownership model where you have a nice, relaxing ownership model. Until then, going back to the point I made in our initial podcast about food puzzles, is you want to give your dog something to do. You want for your dog to have its energy, have a home. And so this feeding your dog first, doing a little training drills, 5 or 10 minutes, then just giving your dog the rest of its food out of its food puzzle will make it where you're squeezing, you're getting the most out of every piece of kibble. And that's what good business owners do. Good business owners take their resources, like whether it's like their team members, their material, their different relationships, everything that they have, like they make investment infrastructure wise, and they squeeze and they get more. And so that's what champion puppy owners do. They take the ordinary tools, that's just ordinary kibble, and we make it extraordinary. And so by you doing this, you're taking something mundane like a meal and squeezing and getting more out of it. And if you continue to do this, like in all areas of your ownership model, that's where you really get a tightly run household as far as it pertains to your puppy. So with that said, hopefully you feel now at this point of our podcast segment, why food puzzles are such an important tool that you have at your disposal, how to start to utilize the food puzzle in regards to rollout, and how it's going to fit into the framework of your ownership model on an ongoing basis. So what we're going to talk about on next podcast is going to be Tug toys. So I'm going to go over with you why Tug is so essential, some of the best practices about when and how to use Tug toys, and then I'm going to go over some of my most favorite Tug toys and help you really wrap your head around that aspect of you being a champion puppy owner. All right, guys, I'll be anxiously waiting for you inside tomorrow's podcast. Remember, champion puppy owner, action over anxiety, discipline equals freedom. Take the next step, do what you know how to do. Drive the puppy training process. Truly commit yourself to this and hit it hard for a short period of time so you can stop working on your dog and simply enjoy them. I'll see you next time.